Strokes of bad luck, all landing three different people in scenarios they didn't want to be in. Will you find their stories in headlines? Or are they the products of our made-up reality? That's up to you to decide in today's episode of Fact or Fiction.
The line that divides the factual from the unreal has long since blurred. The tales we once thought fantastical, now implanted as truth. To decipher verity from the imagined, you must break from the ordinary and consider a universe where the outlandish prevails. Can you expand your mind to see beyond our perceived reality? Can you decide what's fact or fiction?
Imagine feeling like you're on top of the world. Now imagine that feeling being ripped from you in an instant. Keep that sensation in mind during our next tale, the unfortunate story of Valeria Ferdinand.
For just a minute, Valerie felt like all of the worries of the world would finally fade away. The wheels spinning in front of her eyes granted her a reprieve that nothing else in the world could. When the slot machine's reels landed on the coveted jackpot, Valerie thought she was walking away with $8 million. Minus taxes, of course. She revealed her excitement with her mother, who was sitting beside her watching her own credit counter dwindle with each spin. The two embraced each other when they realized just how much Valerie had thought she won at Seattle's Eagle Eye Casino. She waited impatiently for a floor worker to come over and help her, the deafening alarm of the machine making her even more anxious. When an employee did come over, they brought with them news that completely changed Valerie's mood. The manager extended a handout as if to congratulate her on her winning, but the words out of his mouth had an air of sorrow to them. Valerie and her mother listened in disbelief as the manager explained that the slot machine had malfunctioned. Valerie was too in shock to respond right away, but her mother was more than willing to step in and question the validity of the manager's claims. They could offer no proof that the machine actually malfunctioned, but knew that their adamant attitude about it meant that she was leaving empty-handed. Before she could collect herself in her defeat, the manager presented a ticket to her consolation prize. With her $80 ticket, $20 less than she had put into the machine, she dragged herself out of the casino. The memory of her brief victory burned into her mind as if to torture her. As much as she wanted to fight it, the most she could do is to tell her story to those who would listen. Unfortunately, her story ultimately fell on deaf ears, and her plight remained unresolved.
Ouch! From a millionaire to being down $20. That's not a good progression of events. While we want to dissect the potential corruption of the casino, we're here to ask you one question. Did it actually happen? We'll let you know the truth in a moment, but first, another incredible story you may or may not have heard of before. Is the realm of the supernatural real? While you consider that, we have a story that may sway your opinion. Benjamin Riley simply wanted to document a real creature of the night. His experience is one he won't soon forget, if he's even remembering it correctly at all.
She told me it was the experience I was looking for. I needed something big for my YouTube channel, and I thought following around someone that thought they were a vampire was great for comments. Benjamin recites the story as if it's something he's told time and time again. There's a determination in his eyes the deeper he gets into it, as if struggling to recall the details of what he calls his night of hell. Maybe it was my mistake for posting my ad on Craigslist, but I couldn't think of a reputable source where I could look for real-life vampires. When she first answered, I was hesitant to move forward, but my curiosity got the best of me. We met somewhere public at first, and she appeared far more nervous than I did. When I turned to my questions, she livened up a bit. almost like she was excited to describe the life of a vampire. As I expected, there wasn't anything too scandalous about what she told me. Benjamin pauses as if to consider his words. Yeah, it was what I expected. Everything was consensual with long-term partners that she knew. To be honest, I was a little disappointed. But then she offered to show me how she fed. Her source lived with her full-time, and as she described it, they had a happy arrangement. He loved pain, she loved blood. A match made in heaven. Benjamin chuckles nervously, and his tone quickly changes. She was full of crap. Their arrangement was a nightmare within some seedy apartment in what had to be a slum house. I knew going in was a bad idea, but I just had to see. When she opened the door, I could smell that metallic aroma of blood. It was strong. At first, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but then she showed me her feeding den. We sat in silence for a moment while Benjamin collected his thoughts. He was tied to the wall, dried blood covering every inch of his body. He wore a blindfold and flinched when she approached him, but didn't say anything. They definitely had an arrangement, but it was one he was forced into. I was frozen, stuck, watching as she tilted his neck and bit into him with her very normal teeth. He let out a yell, but quickly quieted when her hands gripped his neck. It was their ritual. I could only imagine how often they'd done it and how long she'd kept him alive and chained to a wall. I didn't want to think about it or see it, and so I finally got my body to move. She didn't let me, though. Somehow, without me realizing it, she was gripping my body, keeping me in place. I was terrified, simply terrified of this 150-pound girl. I'd never felt that kind of strength on someone so small. I remember locking eyes with her, and that was that. I blacked out, completely blacked out. She drugged me. It was the only explanation. Everything was gone by morning. My cameras, her, the body, the blood. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I know what happened that night. I know I found more than what I was looking for. I just don't know why she left me alive with a story I have no proof of. It's like she's torturing me, making me go on living with this event and not being able to get anyone to believe me.
It's clear that Benjamin had a bad night. But was it a real vampiric encounter, or the product of his subject's special cocktail? Better yet, does Benjamin even exist? And is this tale a creation of our own imaginations? Before we reveal our secrets, there's one more story to get through. Our final tale follows Carl and Jamie Upchurch, a couple that loved to travel, but eventually realized the unexpected hazards of seeing the world.
It was your typical day at the tail end of a New York summer, and Carl and Jenny were enjoying walking around the city, taking in the sights and sounds of the Big Apple. They didn't expect that, during their vacation from their home in England, they'd be witness to the worst terrorist attack on American soil. The otherwise peaceful morning turned to chaos when 2 planes flew into the World Trade Center mere blocks from where the Upchurches were. Away from their home, they were thrust into the panic that racked the city. But despite the chaos, they weren't among the 2,753 people killed that morning. Nor were they among the 52 people that were killed 4 years later in London when a series of bombs exploded through the city's transit system. On July 7, 2005, the Upchurches were going about their day when 4 suicide bombers disrupted daily service in the London Underground. 784 people were injured, but Carl and Jenny escaped with their lives and no scratches. One would think the universe would eventually let up, but in 2008, while on holiday in Mumbai, Carl and Jenny were present for the tragic attacks that unfolded, killing more than 160 people. The couple were in central Mumbai when Islamic terrorists set their sights on foreigners, killing travelers without discretion. Due to their presence at the 3 major terrorist attacks, the Upchurches have been labeled tourists of evil omen. So far, they've avoided the horrors that have since unfolded across the globe.
Are the Upchurches a real unlucky or lucky pair of travelers? Or did we bestow this string of horrors onto a fictional couple? Wonder no more, because it's time for the big reveal.
Are you ready to find out if you can decipher between fact or fiction? Let's look back at tonight's 3 stories and find out which were born from reality and which were fabrications of the imagination.
We started this episode off with Valerie Ferdinand and her $8 million win and loss. Do you think a casino really pulled the plug on her happiness and sent her off with an $80 ticket? If it doesn't sound impossible, that's because it isn't. Veronica Castillo was playing at the Lucky Eagle Casino in Rochester, Washington, when she thought she'd won an $8 million jackpot. The casino, however, claimed the machine malfunctioned and instead bestowed her with $80, which didn't even cover the $100 she put into the machine. Next, we have Benjamin Riley, a YouTuber whose curiosity almost got him killed. If you think the story sounds a little familiar, it's not because it made headlines. Rather, it was inspired by The Monster Project, a 2017 movie that sees a film crew interviewing 3 alleged people connected with the supernatural. Finally, we had the horrific experiences of Carl and Jamie Upchurch. Could a couple be so unlucky that they're present for 3 terror attacks in 3 different countries? The odds may be against this story being true, but it most certainly is. Jason and Jenny Carnes Lawrence lived through 9/11, the London attack on July 7, 2005, and the worst terror attack to unfold in Mumbai. Most surprisingly, after the Mumbai attack, they continued their vacation, refusing to cut it short.
How well did you do in tonight's video? Did you look past the deception of our world and define the off-blurred line that struggles to separate lies from the truth? Let us know in the comment section below. And should you find the urge to test your perceptions again, be sure to subscribe and join us next time when we ask you to decide what's fact or fiction.